Sam, one of the most important things you can do when you're fishing for any fish is have your drag adjusted right. And the captain always says, don't do it when you hook the fish, do it beforehand. Yeah. So you're going to take us through that process.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the most common, things that we see here is, especially with the newer style reels, lever drag reels, 2-speed reels that we have. We get a lot of guys asking, or maybe just, when we go to put a new top shot on, we'll see that their drag's real loose. And sometimes they just didn't know that, and they really don't know how to operate it. A lot of the reels don't really come with a real clear instruction manual on how to do that, and I think that a lot of that is because maybe different parts of the world might, fish different kind of drags and stuff like that. But we've always had that be part of our fishing experiences. Make sure your drag is set. I mean, we've always heard that. Make sure your drag is set. Well, what does that mean? Now with the kind of lines we're using, it's really going to be based, first of all, based on your top shot size. So if your reel happens to have 80-pound braid and you have a 50-pound top shot, your drag should be based on the top shot 50-pound. So that's really important, because sometimes we'll get, where a guy's, getting ready for a trip and he says, okay, this is the rig I have. And I say, well, what line are you fishing on that? They'll say 80-pound. Then they bring it in. Well, that's the braid, it's actually going to be 40-pound or 50-pound. So you want to have your drag set to the lightest part of your line on your reel. So
Makes sense.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
As far as a range, it's always been 25% to 33%, so a quarter to a third. So for instance, 40-pound test, it'd be like 10 pounds. A 30-pound test might be 10 pounds as well, because that's a third. So one of the things you have to kind of like weed through this is, where do I set it? Do I set it at 10 pounds or maybe 17 pounds, which is a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that's going to be based on maybe the kind of fish you're fishing. Maybe if you're fishing yellowtail and structure, where you got to really kind of not let them run a whole lot, you might kind of go more onto the 17 side. And maybe on a tuna where it's going to take a long run and it has nowhere it can hang you up, you might want to start on the lighter side, but then maybe work up to a heavier side, as your fish gets closer to the boat. So what we're going to talk about today is is on these specific reels, where to make those adjustments. And then also too, I'll show you a few little things that you can do so that you use your drag to its fullest potential, because these reels are so sophisticated nowadays and we could do a lot with them. So it's important that you're able to do that. So we'll start with the spinning reel here, probably something that we've all seen, we've all done. And this reel here, just like every other spinning reel, has a knob at the top. So basically when you start off here, it's kind of loose, and you just tighten this thing clockwise, righty-tighty, and go ahead and pull it again, and it's super tight. And these spinning reels these days, nicer ones like this one here's a Saltish from Daiwa. I mean, these things can generate up to 40 pounds of drag, like a ton of drag, something that you would see like an international. And so you got to be careful you just don't tighten the thing all the way down thinking, oh, that's where I need to be, just super tight. You still want to measure it, and the best way to measure it is using a scale. So you'll tie that off to a scale, then pull on it, and you take a good measurement. But be real careful. Some of these reels they have a ton of drag, and so that's how you set that up.
So do I need to bring a scale on every trip? Is it a good idea?
It's probably not the worst idea. They make pretty small 50-pound scales. That should be all you really need. We're not fishing more than 50 pounds of drag on any reel. They have some digital scales depending on how they work. Sometimes they'll hold the number, like where you pull it and then it'll hold the number. But a drag scale is something you should have, and you want to have something that has that slider on it, so that I'll show that to you here, so that when you pull on it, it basically, I don't know if you're able to see that, it'll show that it'll stop there. So you're going to basically tie your line to here, and then, or actually maybe tie this end to something on the boat or at home or wherever, and then you'll maybe tie a loop into your line, and you'll loop that over the hook here, pull on it. But small scale like this, they make big giant ones. Obviously something like this to fit in your tackle box is gonna be better. Next kind of reel here is gonna be a star drag reel. So this is just a Trinidad reel, and the same kind of thing. You tighten it here, and as you make it more tighter here, it's gonna get more drag. You can kind of hear that. Let me show this guy here again here. So kind of a loose drag, and as it gets tighter and tighter, it gets even really tight. I don't know if you can hear that, the kind of pinging. something that we used to always talk about before. That's about as tight as you want to go.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that with the Spectra, but with the monofilament, your Top Shot, you would hear that.
Yes.
And I would guess that's right there, probably at that third, when it starts making that noise. But don't use that by itself. Use the scale. Then the next one's going to be a lever drag reel. So a lever drag reel, that's really where it kind of starts to become a little more complicated. And especially now with this tuna fishing we're doing on a daily basis, here out of Southern California, we're having to really use this kind of reel because this is where you're going to get a 2-speed. You can't get a 2-speed in a star drag. It's going to be a lever drag reel. And the way that this reel works is that it's based on a preset, meaning that there's a preset knob, and then it also has your drag lever here. So this drag lever, when you're fishing, and you got this thing in free spool, you get bit, you put this lever forward, that's where you're going to be fighting your fish. Okay, so you got your drag set there at strike. Now, that drag setting, or the amount of drag, is something that you're going to preset, meaning that this preset knob here, if I back this off and put that thing into strike, it basically has almost no drag. You back this off again here, and you always want to set this with the drag backed off. Tighten that up into gear, and there's a ton of drag. So that's basically how that works. And so you're going to kind of play with that and then make the adjustment, put it on your scale, pull on it, and then that's how you're going to want to make that adjustment. So this preset knob is real important. Once it's set, you're good. Now let's say, for instance, we were talking about that 25 to 33% drag. Okay, so what you can do is that, like on this reel here, this is a Penn torque reel. It has a couple different settings versus what you would normally see on other reels like this one here. This is going to have a free, a strike, that's where you're fishing, and then a full. So basically 3 different positions. And normally you're going to always set your drag for strike. Now, and this guy here, it has a free, a strike, a full, and then what they call a sunset, so like a second full. And what that does is it gives you a couple of different places at which you could be working with and have a predictable drag setting. So let's say we set our drag here at, let's say, 25%. Well, this next position here is going to be obviously tighter. So what you want to do is maybe measure where each of those are, and so you'll know that if you're here, that's one drag setting, and if you're back here, that's another one. So you might start off here with 25, and maybe up here at 33. And actually on this reel, what I would do is set this further setting here for 33%, not 33 pounds, but 33%. And wherever this strike happens to land, that's where I want to be, because 33 is about as heavy as you want to go. 60-pound test, that's going to be 20 pounds of drag. That's a lot of drag.
Yeah.
So, like I said, every reel kind of has the different features or different settings, and you want to use those to their potential, and that's what we want to do. So that's basically the biggest thing. Obviously, you get on a boat, talk to your crew member, make sure that they'll check the drag for you. But if you take that drag scale, guys are going to be checking out 25 other guys' reels. It gives you kind of a head start. You can get going, but never hesitate to ask those guys. And then also another thing too is, if you're on a multi-day trip, sometimes you'll find that what you set the drag for when you're at the dock might change the next day due to maybe boat vibration, might have moved something. Maybe somebody walking by your reel might have grabbed it or grabbed the wrong reel. Or, you just don't know what could have happened overnight. So before you start fishing that next morning, or in this case at night for the jig fishing, check it again. So even though you checked it at home, you checked it when you got to the dock, when you rigged up all your jigs and everything, check it before you actually put a line in the water, because at that moment it could have changed or something could have happened in between. So sometimes too, you'll see a lot of crew members, just kind of grab the line and be like, oh yeah, that's good, because they do it every day. That might be something you might do too at home. One of the things you can practice is set it up to 20 pounds or 15 pounds or something, and start kind of getting that muscle memory where you start remembering what that is. And maybe you could just check your reel like throughout the middle of the day. You can kind of give it a good pull and be like, yeah, I'm pretty good, and it'll be obvious where if it's way too tight, you're like, oh man, something happened, like I got to go back and check my drag, or it's too loose or something like that. So get a good idea and kind of become that second measure, second QC of your drag, and make sure that your drag is set right.
And Sam, for somebody who's saying, boy, this seems like an awful lot of hoops to jump through, this can be, especially when we're talking about 300-pound fish,
right? This
can be the difference between catching a trophy and not catching, right?
And that's the whole reason, I mean, you know, we're just in an era right now where it seems like repetitive, you know, with all those big fish every day, you know, where it doesn't seem like it's that special. But I mean, there are some guys who go 15, 20 times a year, and maybe it's not as important to them, but most of us only get to go a couple times a year, so you want to make the most of it. And every fish you hook could be the biggest fish of your life. I mean, which is, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. Phil, and obviously you've been around for a long time, and it's like, I can't even imagine really being in a situation where you could just say, I'm going to go on a 3/4 day boat there out of San Diego, catch a 150-pound tuna.
It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not out of the realm of something that will happen. You know, these guys just did it the other day, and it's probably going to happen another 40, 50 times throughout the year where they're going to have that trip with the right guys and get these fish. Now, a lot of times I bet you what happens is they get on these fish and they hook 40 of them and they lose 40 of them because on that particular day they didn't have a lot of anglers that were taking the time to prepare. And it sounds crazy where you'd hook that many fish and lose all of them, but it can happen if no one's really thinking about it or taking the time to do it. So
absolutely,
it's just a big deal.
Happen. And you just referenced a trip here recently. We're talking in 2022 about a springtime bite on the boat San Diego.
Right.
They literally quit fishing due to exhaustion.
Yeah.
They
were done.
I mean, there were 130 to 170 pound fish. You're right. They leave Point Loma at 6 a.m.
That's crazy.
And they're catching these fish that you used to have to go on a 16-day trip to catch.
Yeah, normally a trip like that, anywhere along the coast, you're catching some sculpin, maybe a couple rockfish. If you're lucky, some barracuda. You know, maybe you fish some 25-pound. I mean, you're fishing 100-pound. I mean, you're fishing 18-day trip stuff that you would fish. I mean, we would dream about. You know, I mean. Only in your wildest dreams would you think about, you know, going on those trips, you know, and a lot of guys did them, but not that many in comparison to the percentage of people who go fishing. So now it's so accessible, and also the gear we have is so good that it has the drag to do it. It has the features, and if you just kind of take the time to mess with your gear a little bit and figure that out, you're going to see that when you do hook that big fish, not only are you going to land more fish, you're going to land them a lot faster too because you have the right drag setting. You don't let a fish take 500 yards of line and it just takes like 5 hours to get your fish in.
Sage advice, Sam. I think that everybody should really heed your advice. Thanks again, my friend.
You got it.